Hey everybody, it's Bust, Expedition Trial number 304. Let's take a peek at who shows up here. Something cool, I'm sure. As always, that's all we do here is cool stuff. So let's take a peek. All of these are pretty reasonable champions. I can't think of which of these we've drafted most recently. I'd have to go and check, but it feels like it's been a bit of time since we've touched on any of these. But I'm actually going to come over here and just take this Twisted Fate. He was recently nerfed in the 2.5 patch, and then also there's been some boosts to the Sea Monsters archetype. The Dreg Dredgers now has an additional point of attack, and then the out of the Shadow Isles, um, the Sea Scarab is a 2/3 now instead of a 1/2. And so a bit of changes here. We'll see if we can have any of those come up. There's some other Twisted Fate decks that are pretty good. Twisted Fate's a good support champion on his own, and so no guarantees on where this draft will go, but that's one of the big strengths in Twisted Fate, as he is just it's so strong in so many different directions. And so uh, let's get it pulled up on the site here real quick. If you're not familiar, the site's ftpbus.com. It's where I keep all of my expedition related content. We'll just be over here on the expedition helper section today. We'll scroll our way down to the little drop down box, come down to Twisted Fate, peek at first of the draw, and see what we're working with here. And so with this one, this is just a Twisted Fate only card pool. He's the only champion in this one. And there's kind of like two big decks that we typically look at as far as Twisted Fate is concerned. We already kind of touched on Sea Monsters. He has a bit of it here. You know, the Beast Below lives here, Abyssal Eye lives here. Jaw Hunters is the way that we typically pursue Sea Monsters with Twisted Fate, and then he does have the Devourer of the Depths. And so, you know, the big ones as far as Sea Monsters are concerned are always Devourer of the Depths and Jaw Hunters. And then kind of the idea we have with this is we're just going to draw a whole bunch of cards really quickly, right? There's typically, you know, the toss mechanic to get you through your deck quickly, but over here with Twisted Fate, we have things like Pull Shark and Fortune Croaker. Salvage should live here as well. So from the standpoint of, you know, churning through our deck, we have all these card draw options instead of just trying to find toss cards. And so, you know, that's kind of idea number one here is, you know, we just play Sea Monsters. We don't actually have to play the legitimate and real Sea Monsters. We can typically just play Jaw Hunters and then have our Sea Monster theme be whatever the Jaw Hunters adds to our hand. Right, because there's not a humongous deal between having a 7/7 from the Beast Below and then having a you know, a 9/8 or whatever this amounts to, a 10/8 something off of a shipwreck order. And so, you know, the units are just big enough as is. And so if we don't care about which one we have, then the Jaw Hunters is kind of the premier way to go about it. Deck number two that we typically look at is more of a just, you know, kind of Twisted Fate flip build around. He has all of these very good early game cards. He has, you know, Jagged Butcher, Pull Shark, and Shell Shocker at the ones. Fortune Croaker's a pretty reasonable 2. It's not too tough to find things like the 2/3 for 2 that gives something vulnerable. And so he has lots of good early game plays. And then if you're going wide in the early game, it's very easy to hit plunders to where you can then try to take advantage of pilfered goods and black market merchant. And so from this style of deck, we typically look to just keep our curve like super, super low, just as many 1s and 2 drops as we can find, as many of these cheap early card draws as we can find, like Pull Shark and Fortune Croaker. And then we'll just assume that we'll find some top end from our opponent's deck. And so you typically are able to kind of like go wide. Your opponent's going to start getting value blocks on you because our units are small and cheap, and then we can, you know, either try to AoE our opponent with Twisted Fate, maybe take down all of their value blocks with a red card, or we can look to just keep, you know, spending 100% of our mana every turn of the game, outspending our opponent mana wise, and then just eventually overwhelming them. And so, you know, those are like the two big decks that we look for as far as Twisted Fate is concerned. And then, you know, on the flip side, he's just a very strong champion, having this, you know, the gold card to, you know, nullify your opponent's biggest unit, the red card for AoE, or the blue card to cycle. All of these are pretty powerful and fit well into any deck. And so he's strong in that sense. We can look at Sea Monsters. We can look at this kind of aggro strategy. There's a lot of plunder things we can do here. And then if all that fails, we don't want to pursue any of that. It's a card that we're extremely happy just to have in our deck. And so starting with Pull Shark Twisted Fate, it's pretty reasonable. Let's see how that plays out. And then with our second one, these are not exactly what I was looking for. We could perhaps pull off something with Teemo. Quinn can also work. Kind of the idea here was like the scouted out Quinn plays with Misfortune. There's a handful of scouts in Bilgewater, but not the good ones, right? The scouts that we're really looking for all live within Demacia. The reasoning behind this would be, say, Misfortune is extremely good, and this would probably be a pretty reasonable way for us to start taking misfortunes if we're able to win some games. And so I don't think I quite want to pursue this. I don't really like starting with Quinn unless we already have access to some pretty powerful scouts, and we just have 0 here. Then add to the fact that things like Fleet Feather Tracker doesn't get much help from Bilgewater. I'm okay just to kind of skip over this Quinn. Then over here with the Soraka, there is a little bit of overlap between Soraka and the kind of self damage theme. With over here in Twisted Fate, he has the Fortune Croaker. Doesn't have access to the other self damage ones like the 1 cost guy that deals 2 to himself, or the Challenger unit. So, it's tough with Soraka. I don't really like playing her unless we're already in Tahm Kench. She just doesn't get, a whole lot of value unless we're just in there with Tahm Kench. And so, it's looking like I'm kind of okay with jumping in on Teemo. He's pretty okay with this like 1-drop style of strategy, and then even if we're just playing Twisted Fate as a support, this is pretty fine. I think we should be able to get something pretty reasonable coming together here. The only real downside with pairing Teemo with Bilgewater is Bilgewater doesn't have a whole lot of spells, and so if we're looking to get a lot of value out of something like a Puffcap Peddler, it's a little bit tougher to do here. But Shroom and Boom Teemo is pretty reasonable, so let's get this pulled up as well. Teemo, you're down. There we go. And so this is, of course, just your standard Puffcaps deck. And so, there's a few ways that you could typically go about this. Most commonly, we're just going to be building towards Puffcap Peddler, and then to fuel off the Puffcap Peddler, we're looking at, Clump of Wumps and Chump Wump. So I think, though, that, the way that I could ideally see these two things working together is if we're able to just really kind of focus on this like 1 and 2 drop theme. The problem that you tend to run into as far as Teemo decks and Puffcap decks go is you're kind of paying a bit of a tax, right, on deploying all these mushroom clouds, or just out here just trying to fuel the Puffcap Peddler in general. And so if you're trying to use things like iterative improvement and those additional Puffcaps, you're just spending mana without directly adding anything to the board. And so if we're able to just stay like really cheap as far as our curve is concerned, then these things can kind of like fix themselves. And so if we're able to really limit the number of like Chump Wumps that we have, if we're able to limit the number of cards that cost 4 or more, I think we could probably get together a pretty reasonable deck here. And so this will be fine. The way I typically talk about these Puffcap style decks is you're really looking to get your opponent to like 10. And so if you can just, flood the board with units, be really aggressive and get your opponent to like 10, and then maybe plan on doing like 2 damage with Mystic Shot, 3 damage with Get Excited, and 5 damage with Puffcaps, or, depending on what your Puffcap situation looks like, maybe getting in like the full 8 or 10 damage from Puffcaps. And so you typically look at Puffcap Peddler. He costs 3 mana, but he kind of functions as like a 7 or an 8 drop because he needs a bunch of fuel to get going. But I think we could probably get something going here. If we look at all the 1s and 2s from Bilgewater, the 2-drop, Mystic Shot, and then closing off with Puffcap Peddler, I think I'm pretty on board with this. And so welcome to the team, Teemo. Let's see what we can get together. And so now we immediately see the Jawl Hunters. The issues that we had with that previous pack was if we wanted to play sea monsters, we really want to be we really want to be in Shadow Isles, right? That's where we're going to find some of the toss cards. That's where we're going to find the Sea Scarabs. And if you're trying to play sea monsters just with Twisted Fate, it leaves you a little bit lacking as far as the unlocking the full potential of your deck. And so I think I'm kind of okay with letting these go. Pilfered Goods does play reasonably well with Puffcaps, since if you hit your opponent with a Puffcap on their turn, then you've already hit your plunder without having to attack or anything. But that tends to be a little bit of a thin value here, and so I think we should be able to reasonably just use things like Pool Shark to make sure that our hand stays full. So I'm going to come over here to the Shroom and Boom pack and just take the Academy Prodigy. This is one of the kind of premier aggressive units as far as these decks are concerned. He almost always gets in on the second turn or the third turn without getting blocked. And so if this guy can get in for like, 3 damage, a value attack, and then a trade, then he's gotten a ton of value. And so I think I'm pretty happy to pick that one up. Okay, and then things do get a little awkward. We're never taking Pilfer Goods Monkey Business. The thing is, like, I'd really like to have these Pull Sharks, but this is also the first chance at Puffcap Peddler, and so I think we can take the Peddler. I'm not a huge fan of how this is coming together with us having this gigantic pile of iterative improvements, but just like the addition of Beast Below is not going to be that great here. Okay, so this is just not taking the Freylord packs down here. We've already avoided the sea monsters and don't have any in our deck, and so this is a pretty easy take with the Chumpwump and the Veteran Investigator. Okay, this one's a little bit more on the interesting side. I do not like Academy Prodigy. I think this unit is just terrible. And then coming down here, Slippery Wave Rider is something that I'm kind of interested in here. This is one of the stronger pieces of top end that you can have in these aggressive decks. Just this big, meaty, elusive unit. And we're picking up a 1-drop along with it. And so I think I'm pretty happy with this set down here. If our top end, our cards that cost 4 or more, or say like 2 Chumpwumps, 1 Twisted Fate, and 2 Slippery Wave Riders, or maybe even 3 Chumpwumps, I'd be pretty happy with that. And so I think this will be a pretty good add here. Okay, and then the awkward things kind of continue. Again, we don't want Salvage or Shell Shocker. We've kind of missed out on this card draw theme, but the Urchin and the Hexcore Foundry could be pretty good here. Kind of thinking of Parlay. It's interesting in that we don't have any removal yet. We haven't seen any Mystic Shots. We haven't seen any Get Excited. We haven't seen any Thermogenic Beams. We haven't even seen like the bad ones like Gotcha or Aftershocks. And so like I'm kind of wanting to do something. And so the Parlay could be okay here, especially once we get into this kind of idea that we're just going to be like ultra aggressive and just slamming a bunch of units at our opponent in the early game. It seems like it gets a little bit better. So I think I'll be okay with this. Just kind of consider our top end filled and then be happy with that. And so, okay, here with this, I'm happy to take Jagged Butcher Scrap Shot. We have to have like some kind of removal spell, right? I typically prefer to have Thermogenic Beams, but we haven't seen any. And so the Butcher Scrap Shot is what's going to have to do it here. We'd love to have another Puffcap Peddler. We're going to look for about 3 of these, but we just have no need for 4 iterative improvements. Okay. Things continue to look good. The Veteran Investigator Chumpwump, again, very strong pack for us. And so this is going to really kind of like finish off our top end. We don't really want any more expensive cards that aren't Puffcap Peddlers. So we can kind of, we are getting close to the end of the draft, so it shouldn't be too unreasonable to think that we can pull that off. The things that I'm really looking for here are, removal spells, and then just cheap units. And so would love to be picking up this Eager Apprentice Veteran Investigator, but we can't pass on Get Excited. So that's a pretty reasonable take. Good, like this is exactly what we're looking for. Some Zonite Urchin with the Mystic Shot. Very happy to pick that up. Okay, looking good. The Clump of Wumps of the Puffcap Peddler, again, just exactly what we're looking for. Okay, then we had a good run. We had a good run with the good cards. Things have to get bad eventually, and so with this one, I think I'm going to be okay with the Yibin Worn Puffcap Peddler. Again, we're pretty light on removal. Now we're just up to Parlay, Mystic Shot, 1 Get Excited, 1 Scrap Shot, and so having an additional way to interact is something I'm pretty happy to pick up. Okay, and then the Siren. Sorry, Misfortune. I wish you were here, but we're happy enough to pick up the pair of 2-drops. And our last one, cool. Always happy to pick up Mystic Shots here. So trading out the Poro Cannon for Mystic Shot is pretty reasonable. Okay, and so yeah, this came together pretty reasonably well. If you're not familiar with how we do things, we do have to go and turn something premium, and we're running out, right? This is this isn't having much to do with the new cards, and so I think Slippery Wave Rider is already premium. And then as far as these other ones go, we'll have to check on Zonite Urchin Academy Prodigy. Otherwise, we're going to be down to spells. I guess we could look at iterative improvement, but we'll see how that goes. So, hang on. The Wave Rider's already leveled up. I forget what these other ones were. Kind of look at it this way. Units common. Filters, Bilgewater. What was our other one? P and Z. All right, what's even left out of these? Academy Prodigy already leveled up. The Urchin's already leveled up. And so let's see if we can do iterative improvement, I guess. That one technically, turns a card premium. And so that could be a good choice. There we go. All right, so the card that we go and pick up off the iterative improvement should turn into a premium. And so I think that's pretty reasonable. This could technically get us every unit in the game. And so that sounds pretty good. All right, yeah, let's get to it. Not too upset with how this came together. I was hoping to get a little bit more early game and a little bit more card draw, like just some more pull sharkage in here. But we're looking pretty reasonable here, I think. Okie dokie. So let's just start with the clump of wumps and then continue to look for cheaper cards. We'll have to see how this deck comes together from our opponent, but this is something that we're probably going to need to get out in front of. Hopefully they aren't really coming online until like the third or the fourth turn, and we'd have a chance to aggro them down before their units just get better than ours.
Safety mode. Didn't build one.
Okay, then I think we're just going to have to open here. If he plays, like a 3-3, that's pretty terrible for us. There are some choices that would be pretty good for us if he, plays like Rose of the Thorn here. But doesn't appear to be the case. We just want to get Slotbot going. It seems reasonable.
Welcome.
Sure.
Play again.
Doesn't look like much.
And with this next turn, like I'm fine to just take this. We can just gold card this and then see if we can't get an additional damage in with Twisted Fate. I think that seems fine.
I'm always up for a round or two.
Good chance that he just plays, like random 5-5 here, 6-5 out of Noxus, but hopefully we can get in for 6 damage. Ooh, okay. That's delightful. That is delightful. Okay, so it hasn't, quite happened here. One of the big things that we'll run into with these Puffcap decks is we're going to find the spot to where we just can't attack anymore. And this is probably it. It does seem, we have a reasonably lucky draw here where we're able to get wider than our opponent. But this is the point in the game where we have, kind of feel it's like, okay, well, we're going to have to just like start blocking because we're not going to be able to get our attacks in anymore.
There was a little fella asking for me.
You should have run.
Taking 10. How scary is that? He would potentially kill us with a decimate, but it's not like super likely to happen. I do kind of like the idea of doing this, and then we do have the quick attackers for next turn. So I think this is okay. It's like the Twisted Fate and Academy Prodigy are real threats here. I'm just going to start going face with everything. We should be in a pretty good spot to be getting, all the Puffcaps from Chumplunk down next turn. We should have to do a lot of blocking here. I think this is pretty good.
There's plenty of killing left.
Teemo, you're a little late. We can't risk just throwing Teemo down here.
If you ain't hurt, you will be. First me, then the worms.
Fantastic. Even if he has like a Whirling Death or some kind of combat trick to do a bit of surviving here, this is great. If he can't kill us on his next attack, he's going to have real issues surviving our Puffcaps. Okay. He protected the one in front of his 6-2. Interesting. Go ahead and do this while we can. Good. Handful of Puffcaps in here. Decisive maneuvers. Uh-oh, we're taking our own Puffcap damage. I forget about that with the nabs. We gotta be careful with that on occasion, but I think we'll be okay here.
I got ways to find me mushrooms. Pay debt.
23 Puffcaps with 18 cards in deck. All right. Just need 2 now.
If it's made of sand, I can light it.
Excuse you.
It's a cannon, not a shield.
Okay, he can't kill us here. And we'll get this Teemo hit in.
Success is planting your mushrooms right. Reporting in.
Okay, then this should be enough to do it. Oh, yeah, it certainly is enough. Nice.
Never underestimate the power of the Scout's Code.
Okay, so let's go ahead and keep picking up these Teemos. I don't feel like, we have to always take 3 Teemos, but this is a deck where we certainly want one, and this is a fantastic one. We're gonna be a little high on the Chump Wumps since we kind of picked up the Mechanist, but this is perfect looking here. Good stuff. Right, on to the next one. Oh, sound got messed up. Better blow y'all away. Let's see. Oh yeah, our best friend Kindred. Let's see how this one goes. The full-on Slayers deck. It's a pretty reasonable start. I think we can get rid of the Investigator. Perhaps look for a Teemo. No, he was meant to be. He was here to party. And then just try to be as aggressive as possible here. Hopefully we can kind of minimize the impact of Kindred, given that we're going to have all of these cheap plays. But let's see, opponent kind of seems like they don't want to let us do cool things. Kind of cool to just let the Urchin go. We do have this value play in our hand of making the Mushroom Cloud and discarding it. I just don't think we need to pursue that.
Let's take this puppy for a spin.
For the hubris.
Okay. Interesting. Sure. Going all in on getting that Bark Beast leveled up. Alright, so I don't really foresee us getting too much value out of any of these cards before we attack, so we'll just go ahead and slam this in. I feel pretty reasonable about can't add. We have to add the Investigator now. I don't want him just getting value attacks off of his Bark Beast, so this is fine. Wish we'd been able to chunk in like a little bit more damage before we got to this point, but
Charged up and ready to go.
let's see how clever he's trying to get. Ultra. the level of clever he's trying to get is Ultra. What is this? Is this going to be a Spirit Fire? Is that the reason that he just kind of letting us continue to play cards without doing anything? I think that makes sense.
Shall we, dear wolf?
Oh, and after he gets Kindred. Yeah. Oh, here's the team. Say what up, here come the boys. I got all these Mystic Shots, so hopefully that's good enough for something here. He's taking a 9 bomb? Wow. Oh, okay. So what's gonna happen? Kindred's gonna slay the thing. Then the Wave Rider is going to the Kindred Slay is going to go into Pool Shark. Okay.
It knows.
But, I mean, we're 1 Wave Rider hit away from closing this out, so we can pull something off with that. Can just try to scrap shot Kindred.
And winds behind me.
We're safe to just add Wave Rider. We have the backup mana, so kind of the idea that we have going on here is he's doesn't have anything on board that can kill this Wave Rider, so let's just throw it out here. He's going to get a Slay, and that's just going to put it down onto one of our smaller units. And then we should be able to next turn either come in, you know, with the 2 Wave Riders, right? We'll see if we regret not just popping Kindred, but this seemed like a pretty reasonable line to me.
The pulse fades away.
On to the next.
And it doesn't feel like we're just going to be sitting around playing a game forever, right? If we were trying to get into some kind of value game against this Kindred, I think it would have been, you know, fine to try to go for the scrap shot, but getting pretty close to lethal here, right? It's a pretty good place to be. Really have a card for 2 mana? Glimpse Beyond, okay. We still beat Glimpse Beyond. We'll go to 9 with the old collector, but just so happens we have the non-damage available here. Alright, feels good. Get out of here, Kindred. Nobody likes you, man. Oh, jeez. Alright. So perfect. Seems like he took a little bit more damage than he needed to and got punished for it. So, alright, we're taking Teemos. That's what we're doing here today. So, we can make some usage out of the Hexcore Foundry, I guess. I was mostly interested in seeing that Teemo was paired up with the Thermogenic Beam. So now we're kind of cool to get rid of Scrap Shot. I'd rather, you know, play like 2 or 3 beams and 0 Scrap Shots, but, you know, it kind of filled in the need there. We just need to, you know, keep pushing our curve down. That's the story of our lives here in Expedition Land, is just keep pushing your curve down. Okay. Full Demacia with Lux here. Interested to see if we're going into it against elites or if we're going in against Lux. They typically don't overlap that well outside of like Succession and the reinforcements. Not an ideal start. Really want to at least find another 2-drop so we can continue to curve out here. That Succession we can't see because stupid things on the board. Okay.
When tribe calls, a reply is proper.
Okay, let's see what we can do here. Ideally, he'll spend some mana before we slam this Teemo down. Not gonna happen.
Reporting in.
We can still get a decent single combat onto Teemo, but hopefully this might just be him just having no play. Feels like a single combat though. Yep. And ultimately, this is pretty okay with us. Like once we get to where we're comfortable dropping Hexcore Foundries, our opponent has a lot of trouble taking advantage of all these cards. The curve in these elite stacks tends to be pretty high. Doesn't seem like he followed Bust's sage advice of of keeping that curve low and trying to play a bunch of Honored Lords and Penitent Squires. And so we'll see what we're able to pull off here. Up to 8. This is too bad if this is a reinforcements. We need to get our damage in now. But, as we talk about, this has been our 10 damage. We've gotten to 10, and that's, of course, always our big thing we're shooting for. Are we ready to start pedaling? Or do we just want to go wide? I think I kind of like going wide a little bit more here. So let's add Butcher. I'm gonna go ahead and add the Hexcore Foundry, since we should have plenty of time, and then see if we can't, get a little bit more juice for the peddlers before we drop these down. It's kind of bad for us here if we just drop the peddler. We only get 2 mushroom clouds of value, and then he has another single combat. So
Stay safe out there.
I was gonna tell
he's
you.
got all his champions. We're good to just go ahead and get rid of Garen. You could have a Prismatic Barrier, I guess. We want to see what we're getting ourselves into, or just not care. We can just take a 5-hit. Kind of like just going wide here.
Charged
Start with
up
this,
and
it's
ready
cheap.
to go. Into battle with hearts aglow. Hold still.
We're just gonna block. We might as well
It's a
block here,
cannon,
right?
not a shield.
Just take 9. How worried are we of Final Sparks? It's gonna take him a while to get those going. This
I got ways to
Chump
find me
Wump.
mushrooms.
we should be opening in for 9. This is like a succession, that kind of sucks, but I guess the worst would be a single combat. If he has a single combat to flip his gear and then start getting the rallies. But if we get in for even like 6 damage here, this is huge. Okay. Too bad we don't have that Mystic Shot.
Another day in the field.
I'll pick 'em, you plant 'em, kid.
Okay, might have to approach this slightly differently now. Gives him the option to do some stuff, but I think the single Teemo hit could be pretty powerful. Oh, he's just back to backing.
Pushing my limits.
So it's going to put the Mushroom Cloud in his hand. Or the Final Spark. Oh, that was a burst one. Okay,
A
sure.
beacon through the dark.
I did my best.
Backs a bunch.
Let's get to
So we're just going to scrap shot here, right? He's just got access to 1 mana now. I think we want to scrap shot this Garen. I guess we could technically, as he's pushing his blocks down, I'm gonna say we could technically scrap shot Lux, but is that actually who we want to do? Right? Let's actually do Lux. His rally on our next turn just isn't gonna matter, so we can prevent her from taking down our units on his turn. You know, we can play both Puffcap Peddlers, spew off however much Mushroom Clouds that lets us spew off, and then just try to open kill the next turn. You have to block this thing though. Maybe you'll forget he rallied. That's always the hope and dream, right? Maybe he'll forget that he rallied. Maybe he won't remember he played his cards. Stood Fate, interesting. Do something cute here if he spends a whole bunch of mana. Right, because it's just a matter of not dying. The longer we not die, the closer we are to winning this game. And so, if he doesn't, I'm pretty confident if he doesn't win the game on this attack token, then it's just going to be done. Windbird, okay.
I'm always up for a round or two. All that glitters.
So the idea here, just dealing with two units with one of our units. So he's likely going to come in here and do some stuff, but I think it's okay. Okay. There's no way he passes it back.
I dare you.
Then are we just dead next turn? No, he can only open hit us for 3.
Have a mushroom.
This is okay.
Have 3. There they go.
Not feeling as confident as I was. I thought we were gonna have like one more unit on the board, but still got a bunch of Mystic Shots in our deck. Oh, Elor Guardian isn't up. Hang on. restarted the old computer piece a few times. Oh, easy game, right? just bomb them for 4. Nice. Okay, so let's see if we can't improve a little bit here. Hey, hello, our guardian, you're open. Oh, beautiful. Getting rid of iterative improvement for a mystic shot. Beautiful choice, beautiful. Big improvement. Cool. Looking good, feeling good. Nice little Teemo trial. You know, kind of planned on doing a little bit of Twisted Fate. He's not that different in Expedition with, you know, you weren't playing pick a card too frequently. It was typically you're getting all of your Twisted Fate flips off of this kind of style deck we talked about with the Pool Sharks and the Fortune Croakers and such, but we'll see what happens. Keep the clump. We'll have to assume that this is going to be a Grand Plaza deck. Hopefully we can just get out in front of it before he's able to try to take our units down.
A game.
It's not the end of the world if we can't play this card off of Pool Shark. And always cool.
Minding details is my duty.
What you got, Orange Thrower? First Keeper? This is always have problems with Cursed Keeper in spots like this. Okay.
Been here all my afterlife.
Interesting. He wants to keep the ephemeral play. Why? Got the Cursed Keeper coming up next. It doesn't seem like he's ever going to, you know, be the aggro here. Okay. Have to keep this Mystic Shot ready and waiting. Okay, so far I don't care about any of this. If he wants to, you know, Fleet Feather Tracker down one of these, it's fine. This feels like he's, you know, needs to play another unit. Onslaught of Shadows. Okay. Alright, that's fine. Now let's just make sure that we can kill both of his guys. Dude is all intent on protecting the stirred spirits. There you go, get that damage in there. Nope. Maybe? Nope. In your Fleet Feather Tracker? Sure. Interesting. Okay. Let's play the clump. We have a Mystic Shot should we need it here. Not super worried. Like, the Chronicler of Ruin would be like the worst thing he could play on us here. And that's not even that painful. We're getting real close to this just burn them out range, and so kind of interested in seeing how this plays out. Wonder if he ever passes here. Seems like he's getting pretty far behind. Okay. Let's go ahead and be efficient with our mana, since we don't have any Puffcap peddlers at the moment, and then we do have a ton of spells in our hand. So I think we're fine to just go ahead and drop the one Puffcap so that we stay completely full on our mana. Okay. Speaking of the devil.
Show them what we're made of.
So we're playing these either way. I'll stop and count my cards here in a minute, but it's 3, 6, 7. This chump bump's going to add 2. I just didn't want to overdraw. 3, 6, 7, 8. Okay. This should be good for us. Like, this is exactly how these games go. We get them to like 10, and then now we have all these puff caps. We have these mystic shots. We're not going to have good attacks anymore, except for the Wave Rider. Wave Rider is going to be generating good attacks here, but this is exactly how we expect these games to play out.
Wait a minute.
Well, you tried to get in there, Wave Rider. But hopefully he's too far behind to deal with this. Sure.
I got ways to find me mushrooms. Hey, Dad.
All right, load him up.
They grow up so fast.
I think we're looking good here now. This is the standard problem with Demacia, where they don't have any overwhelm units, and we can just block these dudes for days. I mean, Cytheria does give them the fearsome, but should be able to get reasonably far ahead of that.
Oh, if mushrooms could talk.
All whoops, am I right?
If he doesn't play anything, pretty on point with just attacking here. Pesky Spectre shouldn't do it.
Runaway bike.
Just need a touch more damage anyways.
Oh, that's a harvest right there.
Getting in for a net 0, but that's, 3 he would have gained just killing off our stuff. We still have the blocker for one of his units. We're gonna get to play a Jagged Butcher after the fact. I think this is pretty okay.
My pretties.
Ye started without me.
Oh man, I just assumed his Pesky Spectre block was just gonna kill our unit.
Come, the journey ahead is long. You dream it, I'll build it.
I guess this is dangerous. I forgot that the Vanguard Cavalry got confronted.
Everyone's a garden.
This all seems okay. Parlay coming through in the clutch.
Oh,
Okay.
fresh soil.
No need to Mystic Shot any of this. He can only 12 us with Cytheria.
The grove follows.
Cavalry, to the field!
All right, let's see if we can pick up the 7 damage. We got 52 puff caps out of 12, so it should be about 2.5 damage a turn from those. And of course, we got our 2 Mystic Shots. About to make him draw some more cards. Oh, there it is. That's how you do it. Okay, are we interested in any of this? Certainly not iterative improvements. Could make an argument for augmented experimenter, but I tend to find these to be a little bit too expensive. If we're playing like Jinx and we have like scrap heap combos where we get some kind of value out of discarding cards, then he peaks up a little bit in value, but here I don't think it's that spectacular. Then there's an argument to add veteran investigators over Pull Shark, since what we were going to do in that last game, right, was we could play the investigator late, like make our opponent draw cards while they're stacked up in puff caps. But I like the idea of Pull Sharks here. It's a bit of a curve filler and some card advantage, and so I think we're good to skip all of these. Okay, feeling good with Teemo today. Always feels good with Teemo though, right? He's out here being all premium and stuff. What more can you say about that? Let's see, there he is. There's the start. Interestingly enough, against Tarek Azir is the parlay. We're getting rid of Slotbot, but if they start with any of the Shurima, well, we shouldn't say any. If they start with Bloody Marauder or Rockhopper, we can pop them with parlay. That's probably not enough. I'd probably just rather have a 2-drop than parlay here, but doesn't quite work out as well against the Targon choices. They tend to play a lot of like gift givers. That's their 1-drop of choice.
Price doesn't mean everything.
Would you look at this place?
Okay, let's cycle out this iterative improvement and see if we can't find anything good. And again, don't feel like this is, losing out on cards. This is an improvement in card quality. Oh, interesting. I don't think we have to just open.
Observe and learn.
Can't hit Teemo with the Weight of Judgment. That would be like the argument to not open. But yeah, this is fine. Now we parlay and still get in a big chunk of damage.
Can't steer.
Anything helps.
Getting close to that ever important 10 health. So a pretty good start here.
Bask in the sunlight.
Put on me mask, secure me tail, start the day.
Okay, should be a pretty good turn next turn as well. I don't really care if he wants to play either Azir or if he wants to play Tarek. The good thing with those is he has to like spend a ton of mana to do it, and we could potentially just kill this Golden Ambassador with a Mystic Shot before we get too far into combat. Alright. At least have to pull this one back. Doomkeeper here is good. This here is good. Takes 0. Yeah, it's fine.
Dissident.
The big thing here is like, say he drew Tarek, which he did. Now he needs to, if he wants to, get the bonus out of Tarek, he has to both play a unit and a spell. It just takes him quite a bit of work to take full advantage of that, and then he missed. So how do we feel about just starting to pop off all these Puffcaps as well? Because I think he's going to like quickly get ahead of us on board, and I'm pretty stoked about having this dude drawing a whole bunch of cards when he is kind of behind on board. And so I do want to throw down the Investigator first, just to see if we draw another unit. I'd much rather play another unit than play Mushroom Clouds here. But we're getting right to the point to where we're going to get our final attack and then just be blocking the rest of the game.
Dazzling. Never submit.
Okay. He may not even get an attack in next turn. So we'll be adding in 20 Puffcaps into not great attacks. All right, let's throw. I would really prefer to have a Puffcap Peddler here, but I think we're at the point where we have to just go for it. But right, the idea here is it's going to take him a few turns to try to, like take full advantage of this Hexcore Foundry, and hopefully we could just pop off enough Puffcap damage for this to close it out on him. Oh, Wave Rider's huge draw. Such great top end in this deck. No, he's got card. Out of the way. Oh, okay. Could not care less about that. Let's take him to 6. That would be huge. We just need to get 2 more damage in now. Kill him with Mystic Shots. Can't be slightly worrisome against Tarek. They can potentially have some of the heal cards, but Teemo, you came at such an awkward time. There we go. We got the 4 damage we need. Hopefully we'll just see him tap out. Yeah. Beautiful. I know, friend. I know. Alright, cool. Get cruising onto that pre-final battle. Let's see, we got another Puffcap peddler for the iterative improvement. Pretty on board with that. I'm typically pretty happy to cycle out all of these. How many do we have? I only want 3 peddlers. Yeah, pick up a 3rd one, that's fine. But these other choices, Devourer of the Depths is pretty okay here. But I think the peddler is just a little bit more important. So let's go ahead and snatch that one up. We have all of like the core building blocks of the deck now, right? We have the Chumpwumps, the peddlers, the top end. We're just really looking for like mystic shots, and we're looking for the 2-drop Puffcap generator. And other than that, you know, I think we're pretty well set with this deck. We care about these champions, not so much. I think we're actually okay just to even get rid of mystic shot here. Really want to find some early game plays. Just the early game here should be so bad between this being like a Trundle. If this was a like a Tryndamere, we would need to worry about it a little bit more. Trade if he comes in. Nope. I'd like to get rid of your actual unit.
Anything helps.
Worry about this? I don't think we worry about this. The can't play the 2/3 would be like Chronomancer, and the 2/3 would be the Freylord card that gets a boost when you play a spell. That's pretty unfortunate that he had one of the 2, but it's pretty tough to have these. I guess it does live in the Azir deck now, but
Men die, but Sharima lives forever.
what do you think? Do we care? We want to just say let's draw. we need to find some Puffcap peddlers real fast. I think that's fine.
See what I've learned?
Nothing to nothing.
We'll take this hit for now. I'd like to be able to just kind of like stop Azir if he ever has hopes and dreams of coming in to attack. But this is pretty bad. This is Teemo is the actual perfect draw.
Reporting in.
Hopefully he doesn't have a removal. If he has a removal for Teemo, we probably can't come back in this game, but looking pretty good here.
We can always rely on you to keep us safe.
Puffcaps.
Puffcaps.
These old eyes still see far and clear. Stand aside. An expert is at work.
Perfect draw. Perfect draw. Just get some blockers down here and try to get some time for this Teemo. There's a very good chance he just gets challenged down here, but if we're able to get flip Teemo hits in next turn, then we have a shot here.
Together we are part of something more. Together you are children of Sharima.
Don't really want to add a Wave Rider. Let's add an Investigator.
Tells me all I need. In Avarosa's name.
Okay. So we have the 2 choices if we want to either get excited this thing or if we want to just play the second Teemo. Kinda leaning towards playing the get excited so that we can get a flipped hit in next turn. He has a Frostbite, it sucks, but if he doesn't have a Frostbite, then that's huge for us. So these blocks are easy, these blocks are easy. Survive this one, this is easy. Guess we can, let's get his unit off the board. Okay, with that, let's discard the Wave Rider because it's fleeting and we can't play it. Kill this thing. And then this way as well. If he has Elixir of Iron or something, then we should still be able to get our Teemo going.
You died as you lived. Smell
Right, so yeah, as long as we can just keep some width on him here now, we should be good at that since our cards are so cheap. But we'll see.
Have a mushroom. Have 3.
I've heard about
Can get NASA struck this way, but we do still have the backup Teemo in our hand. Okay.
more for my collection.
I've always been a fun guy.
Okay. Spirit Fire would also be pretty abysmal. Good. Okay. Okay. I feel like we're in it now. Good. Okay. Interesting. He chose that thing instead of Teemo. I guess he assumes that we just don't want to block with Teemo. Big old chunks of damage. Look at that. Look at that. Ooh, ooh. Don't think we're ever going to play a scrap shot here. So let's just again keep putting units on the board. We're gonna lose this Teemo, but we have a backup Teemo. Don't think we need to Mystic Shot any of these units. That would be the downside. We could like double Mystic Shot something here, but I think we're good to just... Actually, let's not play the Chump Wump. Let's add the Prodigy.
Safety mode.
Now if we need to play Mystic Shots for whatever reason, we can. I don't think we're going to need to, but let's give ourselves the option here.
It's a cannon, not a shield.
Beg your pardon?
Let's do 4. Okay.
Your time in the cycle is done. Stand down.
Okay. Why would you do that? You really want to draw a Yeti next turn? I guess there's no Puffcaps attached to it. That's a reasonable enough assumption there.
I'll scout ahead.
No. Okay. Gain in health? Bruh. Bruh.
Your Emperor commands. I'll burn for what I've done.
Playing it all. Get it all down here.
Take this puppy for a spin.
Got our blockers again. Don't have to worry about opens. We'll throw away our Teemo Puffcap. I was considering playing that on the last turn, but it seemed a little spewy, right? But it was kind of, it doesn't solve any of the problems here if he has a Frostbite. So that was kind of my ultimate worry with that. But I think we're looking good here. We've got a reasonable set of Puffcaps, 4 damage in hand. It's 2. 2 plus 5. Okay.
Greater things await. It is time.
So we're 100% gonna block everything here. So something like this, sure and sure. I don't think there's slow spells that gain life here, but or fast spells I should say, but we can get in front of a fast spell. Yeah, I thought Kettles to the Aeons was a burst. This is still fine.
Lucky shot.
Signing off.
Oh, if mushrooms could talk.
This cursed life is now my penance.
They grow up so fast.
Okay. Cool. Alrighty, alrighty. Getting up to that final battle. Let's see. Let's get to these trait picks. See if we can't make the ultimate deck. Get ready for it. So, our last chance to get rid of iterative improvements. I don't really like having multiple hex core foundries. Like the first one is fantastic. The second one, it's hard to get, a lot of advantage out of. Then kind of our other problem here is we typically have a lot more spells than we actually have here. But do we want to do this? It's close. I think this is probably okay. All right. Then we do need to kind of pick these up. And so I'd love to hang on to Pull Shark, but we need to, fix our spell count a little bit. Never got to be upset with having Mystic Shots. Here, we can skip this. I want to keep our Scrap Shot, I guess. I'd rather, again, be a Thermogenic Beam, but, kind of, you can't have it all the time. And so let's just go ahead and skip these. Okay, then a Mystic Shot for a Prodigy. Something we could do. Again, I'd rather not be like getting rid of our early plays. I'd rather be getting rid of our, our Pilfered Goods and our Slot Bots. We can't, even the Mechanists I don't really want. I think I'm going to hang on to this Prodigy. Okay, but this is an interesting set. Double ups are kind of interesting here, and that, can kind of get this damage to face. I think I'm okay with this. It does take away our ability to be, these aggressive draws, but this face damage can be pretty important. Okay, don't want to trade any of these. And our last one. I think the Get Excited for a Scrap Shot is an upgrade. Just get the pure burn spell here. Okay. Alright, let's get this one wrapped up. Looking pretty good here. Not perfect, but good enough. That's all it takes. You just need good enough sometimes. Let's see if we can't find that perfect opponent. Not Porobot, right? we'll cancel it if we get up over a minute, just to make sure we found an appropriate opponent. Here we go. Let's do it. Zir and some Darius. I got it. Right, so it's not a particularly exciting start. Again, like with these Darius and Zir decks, I don't expect much out of the early game. I guess that was Sivir that we ran into earlier. So I'm just going to like hang on to the 2-drop and then see if we can't find some Teemos or some other plays to get going here. Teemo would be fantastic. These decks tend to not be that great at interacting with our early plays. Just not gonna happen, is it? Okay, let's go ahead and pop the Doomkeeper. Like if we play the Clump of Wumps, then he's just going to attack, and we're going to miss our opportunity to parlay. So let's go ahead and take this thing down while we can. And I don't suspect he'll be able to add a 1-drop here. Ooh, Teemo, what up, my friend? So let's see. We're not opening since we drew Teemo. Let's start with the Clump. Because depending on what he plays and how he spends his mana, we can't attack with these units, right? We really don't want this Teemo to get hit with a Whirling Death. Oh man, we're gonna have to run it.
We can always rely on you to keep us safe.
All right. Well, the thing is, it's too good when it works to not have to worry about this. So if he has like Calling Strike, fine, nothing we could do about it. The big danger here is him having a Whirling Death over to Teemo. He doesn't have it. Perfect.
More mushrooms.
Okay. Not super scary. We still have to, if he has like a Ruthless Predator or an Exhaust, our Teemo is just going to get aced anyways. We could have hung on to the Mystic Shot here, but I think we're just going to try and push through this stuff. We have a humongous attack next turn, even without Teemo. So I think this is pretty fine. He's had to pivot pretty hard to deal with this. Okay. Punch him. Okay, and I think we're good to slot bot. I'm kind of just thinking, if everything goes according to plan this turn, we should be able to both play Slippery Wave Rider and play 2 Mystic Shots if we need to. And then, again, hopefully we'll have a pretty big open attack for the following turn. This Trifarian is garbage here. There's no ways around that. This thing is not good. It could let him play like a, you know, the thing that lets a 5 attack unit strike something, but I'm pretty content to just take the damage from this thing.
Your emperor Shurima is sand and sky, past and present.
So we need to put like something in front of Iron Ballista because he can just block. So how does this play out, right? We block Iron Ballista and then go to attack next turn. He has like a Zir to block something and he just takes an additional 2 damage. That doesn't seem very good. I'm not willing to risk the Wave Rider down here, but I don't think our ground troops are ever getting in the rest of this game, so that's reasonable. The Puffcaps are the big question here. I'm kind of okay with playing them, but I mean we have 3 peddlers and we're not immediately at risk of dying. I think we can give it another turn. Then of course we just draw Teemo. Better lucky than good, am I right? Hoping to see him just spend a bunch of mana here.
Your legend will never be forgotten.
Uh-oh, he's scared? I think he's scared.
Out ahead.
Right.
Grow free.
Let's get him in there.
Ooh, quite a collection.
Seems like he was thinking awfully hard. Maybe he was just upset at himself for not having a Spirit Fire, but I think something's going to happen here. Decisive maneuvers is fine. So again, like the big weakness this guy has here is he doesn't have Overwhelm, and so he can get wider than us, and width is relatively scary with what he's offering up. But okay, like at worst we just have to double Mystic Shot this Voice of the Risen.
The order is given.
Who's a good boy?
Who's a good boy?
Greater things await.
You're bringing in on that hook.
Face me.
Wave Rider. Okay. So, I mean, do we ever even have to, like, take down the Voice of the Risen? Like, how does this work? Let's say, like, we put...
You're mine.
Okay, sure. Let's say we put... Why would you hook Zevi? This is, like, the least important unit ever. So, like, let's say we do something like this, and do this, and this. Then we can Mystic Shot one thing, and still have our Teemo. Or if we want, we can... Like, where does that get us? If we double Mystic Shot this, I think this is where we want to be.
Can't spoil the
Oh, not Teemo, though. I'm going to block just in case. Then I'm going to try to take this thing down. Assuming all goes well with this, then we're still going to get the same amount of damage out of Slippery Wave Rider. Since it, just won't be dead. But ideally this way, we're just taking a ton less damage.
As you lived, Sally.
In Shurima's name.
Yep, seems good.
I love the smell of mushrooms.
So we
in the
could
morning.
we dial to like a decimate, but other than that, we should be okay.
They'll never know what hit 'em.
Never know what hit him. Spirit Fire. Okay, so this will take him down to 2. Don't have a scary amount of Puffcaps, so yeah, we are going to have to Puffcap kill him here, though. That's the unfortunate side effect of this turn. Right, because he attacks with a Zir and gets a bonus. Yeah, Mystic Shots, though. Do we get... Oh, no, and we drew the Get Excited? No, that would have been the reason to not play the Prodigy. I mean, maybe we shouldn't have played the Prodigy since we knew we couldn't stop and open. Oh no. Oh, that's painful. That's painful. Yeah, so I mean, we should have just held on to the Prodigy. We would have had outs and either double up, get excited, Mystic Shot, and then maybe hitting one of these other ones. But man, that'll get him. That's a way to lose him. Not playing to your outs like that. That was silly, knowing that we couldn't stop the attack anyways, and so. Oh man, you got us good there, opponent. So, anyways, that came together pretty well. Unfortunately, a little mishap at the end kept us from getting the perfect run. But this was a pretty kind of standard deck as far as these go, and so that's at least a lot of what I like about playing Twisted Fates and playing Teemos is that they have like so many deck archetypes that you can just build out from everything. And so, if you're looking to play with Twisted Fate, you can do the sea monsters, you can do the cheap units with all the card draw, or you can just use him as a support champion. He also kind of fits in with Vi. He's paired up with Vi and like the 2-drops matter kind of deck. But there's a lot of things you can do with Twisted Fate, and then the same thing applies to Teemo, right? This is more of a standard just kind of Puffcap aggro deck, but you can also look to like play elusives. You can try to play them like oddly enough in some kind of like Ionia Allegiance deck. You can play them in so many different places. Like Scrap Heap decks are happy to have it. Reforged decks. Not Reforged decks. Was just Scrap Heap. I was thinking there was another way to take advantage of those Puffcaps, but just all kinds of things you can do with these. And so, that's kind of what we turned ourselves into here. Teemo likes to be in these really aggressive decks. Twisted Fate has that kind of really aggressive deck you can put together with all the card draw. So let's just kind of like merge the two and see what we get. And that's, pretty much what we end up with here. And so I think like the important thing to like really call out with this deck is our top end, right? We knew that we wanted 2 to 3 Chump Wumps, 3 being the most. We knew we wanted 3 Puffcat Peddlers because this plays like an 8-drop. We're going to have 1 Twisted Fate, 2 Slippery Wave Riders, nothing else. And that's, right on point with how we ended up. We got stuck with a Zevi at some point. It wasn't through, our choice of action. It was to take this Get Excited at pick 10. We, willingly took the double up, but this is a spell, so it doesn't really play like it's a super expensive card. And that's it, right? Our curve is done there. And, as we talked about the cards we'd like to get rid of, we want Slotbot to go. We want Pilfered Goods to go. Just these cards that cost more than, really, cost more than 2 mana. We want to just get rid of here. And, I thought we had some really prime examples of some of the key points to these decks as to where, you're really going to be trying to like curve out every game, and then you're going to be ultra aggressive, and then you're going to find this point to where you basically say, okay, I can't attack anymore. I have to like hard stop on the attacks. I just be out here and block my opponent's things and hope to kill them off with Puffcaps. And so I thought this was a fantastic run in that sense. This really hit the highlights of the strengths of Twisted Fate, the strengths of these Puffcap Teemo decks, hit the points on finding your final attack, the strength of getting your opponent to about 10 health and then burning them out. Everything about this run was beautiful, except that Mystic Shot or that Get Excited in the last game. But nonetheless, I thought it was a pretty cool trial. Lots of opens and interesting things that you can do here. Pretty academic run, and this is a good one if you or your friends are wanting to learn how to play Teemo a little bit better. I think this is a pretty fantastic primer of a trial on the strength of Teemo and how to navigate this style of deck. And so, yeah, that is going to do it for us today. I hope you enjoyed the watching. I'm going to click the button here and see if we have any rewards. I don't think we do, but it looks like the home screen's all lit up. Oh man, it's a sweet epic prismatic chest. Nice. That's a little something. You get to see these prismatic epics show up. Oh man, and that's a tough one. We typically just go for the units, but I don't want the Undying, and the Harrowing, just makes all those shiny units, but man, I think I'm going to stick with the Undying. We tend to end up drafting a lot of Shadow Isles and a lot of decks that can take advantage of this, whether it's like Callista or Kindred or even Lucian trying to take advantage of the Shadow Isles cards. I think this will be a real winner for the future. So, How much dust do we get out of that? 100? Look at that. Save my pocketbook for the next trial. But nonetheless, that is going to do it for us today. I hope you all learned how to Puffcap a little bit better. You maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.